Okay. Okay. Good evening. Thanks for everybody's joining. Please don't forget to put with your party beside for attendance. It's very important for your attendance. And don't forget your attendance contributes to your graduation. I will introduce myself today. My name is Chiamaka Priskaizani, and I'm your moderator for today. So I'm giving 5 minutes for other people to join. So at 5:05, we're going to begin. Thank you very much. understanding legal frameworks governing elections, both domestically and election law, guiding candidates' qualification, election disputes, resolution mechanisms, political parties, and the correlation between legal statutes and electoral procedures. Throughout her career, Amina has worked to ensure the integrity and fairness of electoral processes, first at the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, where she worked with a diverse group of electoral stakeholders to improve the electoral processes. She currently serves as the project lead for the election project at the Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development, CJID, where she continues to develop initiatives to educate voters and enhance electoral transparency, integrity, accountability, and inclusivity. And Amina will be taking us today on results, coalitions, and post-election. Please let's welcome our speaker for today. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, good evening. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, ma'am. You're welcome.
Thank you. So my network here is not very good. So please, if you can't hear me, just call my attention to it keeps going off and on all that.
All right,
I'm so
that's fine, ma'am.
sorry. I'm so sorry. This is probably going to be a very short class because I'm in the field doing work Ghana elections. So sorry, but we'll definitely maximize. We'll definitely talk about everything that we need to talk about. Just I may not hang around for long. So welcome to the class on collation of results. Um, let's start um by asking um what is election? Is election a one-day event? Is it a one-day event? Um, is it a whole um connection of events? Is it a cycle? Or what does an election mean to you as literacy students of the Electoral College of Nigeria? Can we have some answers in the chat box so I can read them out? I'm not seeing any. What does election mean to you as a student of politics? How can you define election? Is it just one day event that comes and goes, or is it a whole process? Do I need to call names? Okay, an election is a process. There are no wrong answers to this class. Process of selecting leaders, uh, process of selecting leaders, um, election is a process whereby an individual is voted to pick the best candidate, the best candidate. That's arguable. Election is a democratic process of selecting political office holders. It's not one-off event. Okay, since Honor said it's not a one-off event, I want to know why. Can you unmute Honor for me so he can explain why he said it's not a one-off event? Before we move on, please. For me, election is a change maker of electing new people for governance of a state. Okay. Election is a day whereby citizens exercise their franchise.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, Anna.
Okay, so I said it's not a one-off event because it's actually a process. All the voter education we have to go through before the election date itself, where we go to the polls, is part of the electioneering process. That's why I said it's not a one-off event.
Ah, okay. Great, 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 great. Okay. Um, when we say election is a process, um, can you here see me? I'm sitting down on a floor somewhere, sitting for class. So,
Yeah, we can see you,
when
we can hear you.
okay. So when we say election is a one-day event, what we mean by that is that election is, sorry, when we say election is a process, it is not a one-day event. What we mean by that is election day alone isn't what makes election. It's the whole process, um, you know, um, different things, taking into consideration different things. You have um, making of electoral laws. You have the whole electoral reforms. You have a period where you train election staff. You have a period where you you do procurement, a whole lot. So election is not just, that one day. Electoral experts see it as a process, as a cycle, whereby different things happen, within that cycle. And for them to make it more understandable, they divide this cycle into three parts. Yeah, you have um, um, you have the um, pre-election cycle, you have the election cycle, and then you have the post-election cycle. So basically, during pre-elections, sorry, I can't see my screen very well. Okay, you can see it now. So during pre-elections, you have the whole planning for the election. You have registration of parties, you have voter registration, you have budgeting for election, you have generally planning, logistics, all those things. Those are pre-election, activities. I apologize if this place is noisy. It's we're in a situation room, so there's gonna be a lot of noise. I really, really do apologize. So then you get into the election period itself, where you have nomination of candidates, you have campaigns, then you have voting itself, that's voting day. You have collation of results, which we're going to, discuss today, and all of that. Then you have the post-election period, um, where you have reforms, yeah, where you strategize on the next election, where you review the actions of the EMB, of the election stakeholders in the electoral period. Now, the thing with this cycle is that some of it is not um, rigid. Yeah. So when you have things like nomination, results, voting, campaign, those ones are pretty rigid, especially when you consider our legal framework. Yeah. For events in the post-election period and the pre-election, usually, sometimes they're usually, they usually interchange and fall into each, or, each other's um, apologies, into each other's, part of the cycle. So while electoral period will most likely be rigid, uh, the others will definitely fall into each other's this is. So there are some things like reforms now may most likely fall into pre-election period, along with all the training and everything that is happening. Yeah. Then you may also have voter and civic education. There is civic education in the post-election periods. It is not a, that's loud. Okay. So it is not a static thing. It is something that is continuous. Yeah. So that's basically, so whenever you're asked about is election a process or just a one-day event, as students of for literacy class who heard Amina Miango speak, you say, of course, it's not just one day event, it's a whole process. And if you can, you explain it very well. Yeah? Okay. So next slide, please. Okay, the next slide. I think I'm done explaining this. Okay, so next next slide. This should come. I don't know why I've not arranged this slide properly. Okay, so um let's also talk about let's talk about the legal framework for elections. That's very important because we can't talk about elections without I mean, without talking about the legal framework. You can't discuss collation of results without think um thinking about okay, what um what is that law that gives INEC, or if it is not just INEC, state independent electoral commissions. Because now the reason why I'm bringing in state independent electoral commissions is that recently we had a Supreme Court judgment, I think around July, that said that basically made it compulsory for for um for local government elections to hold. And the agency charged with holding local government elections is the the state independent electoral commissions that we have in Nigeria in the 36 states. We all know that INEC conducts elections into the FCT area councils for those of us that live in Abuja. So when we talk about um, electoral legal framework, and everything I'm going to teach here today, I'm going to try to extend it to the local government elections because that is our new reality. Going forward, we're going to see a lot of periodic local government elections happening, unlike before where you have administrators administering local government. We're going to see a lot of elections happening. Like between July and now, we've had well over 20 local government elections. Yeah. So we're going to have a lot of that happening because of the Supreme Court judgments. So electoral legal framework. You can't have elections without laws. The law, election is a legal activity. Apologies, political sciences, but it is a legal activity. It's it is because of the laws that um, we have elections. So when we're talking about electoral legal framework, what do we mean? We basically mean the laws that we make, the laws that either the National Assembly has made or the state independent electoral commission, the state House of Assembly have made to guide the conduct of elections. So the first one, of course, when you're discussing legal framework for anything in Nigeria, even if it's outside elections, I'm teaching you one thing for free, is that the constitution will always come because it is from the constitution that every law in Nigeria gets its validity. So when you're talking about legal framework, constitution is number one. It is the ground norm for lawyers here. You know the constitution as the ground norm of all the laws. Yeah. So the constitution comes first. And it is from the constitution that INEC gets its powers, that state independent electoral commissions get their powers. Their creation of the constitution. The constitution creates INEC. The constitution creates the state independent electoral commissions. The constitution talks about the appointment of those to head those bodies. And it is also a constitution that provides that only political parties can sponsor candidates in an election. Section 221 of the Constitution provides that only political parties can actually sponsor candidates in an election. It is also the Constitution that gives its powers to conduct elections, conduct referendums, to register political parties. Uh, what else does INEC do? To monitor political parties, monitor the finances of political parties, and all of that. And it is from that constitution also that INEC gets the power to make regulations for its activity. And beyond that, the constitution also provides that state independent electoral commissions will also work together with INEC on creating a good voter register for Nigeria, blah, 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 blah. Apart from the creation of state independent electoral commission. And one very important thing is also, two very important things that we tend to forget is that the Constitution also grants the National Assembly the powers to make laws for the administration of Nigeria and also the state houses of assembly to make laws for the administration of the state. So it's from these powers that the Constitution has granted the National Assembly and the State House of Assembly that they're able to make laws like the Electoral Act and also the electoral laws of the state. And also, it is from this same Constitution that we have the judiciary. The law creates the judiciary. The Constitution creates the judiciary, especially the higher courts, like the high courts, the customary courts of appeal, the Sharia courts of appeal, the court of appeal itself, and the Supreme Court. And these courts are very important in our electoral processes. So when you're talking about the electoral process, you need to understand that the law comes first. It is from the law that everything happens. Yeah. So the Constitution, we understand how the Constitution features in our elections. Now, we go to the next document. We have the Electoral Act. Like I mentioned earlier on, the Constitution grants um, the National Assembly the power to make laws. And it is from that power that the National Assembly got from the Constitution that they said that, okay, since the Constitution says the INEC has the power, so this is what INEC should do, conduct elections, do voter registration, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's make another law that will further break down these powers that the Constitution has granted to INEC, yeah? So they decided, okay, let's create the Electoral Act 2022. Now, before we've had plenty electoral acts before now, but the present one, the one that is in it's that is existing now is the Electoral Act 2022. And then of course, like I said earlier on, the state houses of assembly also make electoral laws for the state. Now, so you have the Constitution and then the Electoral Acts and the electoral laws. Now, remember I said that INEC has powers under the Constitution to make regulations and guidelines for its activities. Yeah. Yeah. So, sorry, apologies. I'm a bit distracted. So, remember I said INEC has the power to make laws and regulations. Yeah. For students of legislative drafting, you call them subsidiary legislations. Yeah. So they also have the force of law. So because of that power that INEC has gotten from the Constitution and the Electoral Act, they decide, okay, let's make regulations, yeah, for elections. Let's make regulations on how to register political parties. Let's make regulations on how to track the funding of political parties. Let's make regulations. Let's make regulations. Let's make regulations. And all these regulations form part of the election legal framework. Am I have I lost it anywhere? Did I leave people behind in Wuse market? Or can I continue?
You can continue. We're following you.
Okay. So, so when you're talking about election legal framework, when you go out and say, okay, wow, so you attended Kule Lawal's class, school, you say yes, okay. So what did you learn? Oh, we learned on collation, another in the collation class, um our facilitator talked about, election legal framework. I said, okay, what are the election legal framework? I hope that you can say, okay, we have the constitution, we have the electoral act, we have the electoral laws of the state, and then we have regulations created by INEC. And I hope that you'll be able to explain what each and every one of um these documents entail. So I'll quickly just jump into collation. Like I said, usually I usually take more time, to talk about election integrity and how it is how collation of results, connects to that. Yeah. Election integrity is very important. Those experts do not agree on one definition, but we all know that there are some basic things that you see and you say the election has integrity. Um, where people allowed to vote freely, where materials and people secured adequately, um, where people attacked for their choices, where observers allowed to observe the election. Funny enough, I mean, it's strange that I'm observing elections and I'm talking about elections observation. Um, you know, so all those things. So where those things present, the election can be said to have integrity. So that's just by the way. So what is collation of results? Yeah. Collation of results is basically the tabulation of results. The tabulation and summation of all the votes that are cast at an election. That's how INEC manual for election defines what collation of results is. And for me, I've always said in this class, every time I have to teach this class, I always say that for me, collation is the most important aspect of results of election day activity. And this is simple really because you can go out and vote. Everything will be peaceful. Police will be your friend. Yeah. Political parties will respect themselves and everything will happen. And then at some point, they're carrying results from one level of collation to the other. And then they attack the people carrying it. And they force them to cancel the results that maybe party BBC won and to write result that party AAC, no, let me not use AAC, that's the name of a political party, maybe party FFC, that let party FFC be the new winner. And then they carry that result to the, what do you think will happen? Imagine if it happened in so many places. Of course, everything that has been done since morning, in fact, since the last 2 years, yeah, all the training, all the procurement, everything becomes useless because of that process. Or the election commission decides that so we're no longer doing collation in our designated collation center. We want to take it to chief so and so's house. And everybody knows that chief so and so is a member of the BBC political party. What do you think will happen in such a? That means everything that was done that whole day becomes useless because of just that part of election where you mismanaged. It wasn't transparent. You decided, to attack and started everything. Result kits were snatched, and there was. So for me, collation is the most important. Sometimes when I'm observing elections, I can go around polling units, maybe one or two polling units, call my other observers, what's happening? Everything is fine, yeah. Then I'll just go and wait for collation because I want to see how the process is done. For me, the ability to tabulate all those results from all those different places is what will make the election very credible at the end of the day. And Especially when you consider the fact that in Nigeria, our collation is mostly manually done. Yeah. So you have a whole issue around how to move the results sheets from one part of collation to the other, and all of that. So, like I said earlier on, collation for me is the most important aspect of election day activity. It is what will make or mar the election. Let's go back a little during um, the notorious 2023 elections. Yeah, what brought about all the suspicions? Because most people were able to vote, as at when they went out. So until it came to a part of collation that is usually you can't talk about transmission of results. You can't talk about collation without talking about transmission of results. And then people misreading what INEC meant. Well, I call it misreading because, or no, INEC over promising on what they meant by transmission of results. Yeah, because people generally say the IRES is a method of transmission of results, but is it really? Forget what INEC says. Yeah. Okay, no, you can't forget what INEC says because it's the election management body. But really, it's transmission of results via IRS. Because when you look at the Electoral Act and um the regulations and guidelines for elections, transmission and collation is mostly still manually done. So you can't in Ghana, for example, that I am now, transmission is electronically done. So from polling unit, every result will be transmitted electronically and it goes to a central base. Nobody is adding it up. The computer is adding up the votes as they are coming by itself. That's what we mean by electronic transmission. We don't mean snap results, this thing, and share it. Sorry, let me look around. Maybe there's one next. Okay. Um, so it doesn't mean snap results and upload it on one portal. The IREG was created basically to create some sort of transparency in results management. It wasn't created as a transmission um, this portal for results. Yeah. When you see how results are transmitted electronically, you will know South Africa does transmission of results. Every second, the numbers are changing on the big screen. So I don't understand what it would. Nigeria does not do transmission of results. It is manually done. So if you voted inside one village on the high seat, that result sheet will be carried on the boat and brought to wherever it is that results need to be transmitted. So talking about the results being carried from the high seat to the, what are the levels of collation? I'm sorry, I'm only just going to go through one. For presidential elections, please, Wumi will share the um, the slides with you, and I will explain levels of collation. So whenever you see any level, you understand what it means. And honestly, you should know what the levels are if you've voted before in elections. So I'm going to look at the level of collation for presidential elections. All of us love presidential elections. We don't want to go back to our villages and become councillor. Everybody wants to become president, even political parties that just registered yesterday. That is by the way. So what are the levels of collation for presidential elections? We basically have different levels of collation. So for presidential election, the collation starts at the registration area ward, that is the ward level. And with all results from the ward level are taken. That's when PUs finish and you collate all the results in a PU that make up the ward. So you take each ward's result to the local government collation center for presidential elections. at the local government collation center, every result from every ward under that local government. So if there are 2,000 words under the local government, all the 2,000 results will come to that local government collation center, and the results will be imputed on the results sheet according to the ward, and then you tabulate it according to the ward, according to political parties and candidates. You tabulate each score that the political party scored in each of the wards, and then it will form the results for the local government. Then from that level of local government, when you're done, when the coalition officer, local government coalition officer is done, he signs, he gives party agents to sign, he distributes the copies of the result, he carries the original, and he enters the vehicle. I'm explaining this thing very well so that you know that all those this thing about electronic transmission, what. So he enters the vehicle from the local government and heads to the state coalition center. So at the state coalition center, all the local governments in that state, if there are 20 local governments, there will be 20 result sheets and 20 results. So all the local governments, 20 of them, will assemble at the state coalition center. The coalition officer for the state, I'm sure you've seen them on TV, the professors, will collect those results, tabulate them on the state collation results sheets, calculate according to political parties too, and then get the final score for each party for that state. And at that level, the professors who are the state collation officers will carry that result and enter plane and go to Abuja and meet Professor Mahmoud Yakub and hand over the results to him. And that is the one all of us watch every 4 years on TV. So basically, all the states, the 36 states and the FCT, will carry their result, which they have collated from local government, and bring it to the National Coalition Center. And it is at this National Coalition Center that all the results for every state are collated by the NX chair, who is also the coalition officer for presidential elections and the National Coalition Officer for presidential elections. So he'll collect every result from all 36 plus one, that's the FCT. The FCT is considered as a state for presidential elections. So all 37 states will submit their results. He'll collate it. And it is from that collated result that he will announce a winner and he will declare the winner of the election and return him as elected. The person who, of course, won got the necessary constitutional, markings like two-thirds majority, all 36 states, and two-thirds, all the two-thirds, basically. So that is what I meant by levels of coalition. So you have the same thing happening for governorship elections, except for governorship elections, the coalition will end at the state coalition. And then you also have for National Assembly, that's senatorial, House of Representatives. You also have for State House of Assembly. You have for local government elections and all of this. So, what are some of the challenges that that we could face during coalition? And for me, it's simple, really. I listed, I think, 5, but I'm just going to let's talk about election malpractices. I think I've talked about that a lot. One of the major challenges is election malpractice. And honestly, I think there's something fundamentally wrong with how we do elections in Nigeria. And I used to think, oh, okay, we'll find our way eventually, we'll find our way. But I don't know. I don't know. Nigeria has I think about 97, 98 million registered voters. Oh, is it up to? Or is it 92 million? Sorry. There about over 90 million. Let me be in Nigeria. Registered voters. And that is like that is like um times maybe times two, times three of the population of Ghana. Ghana has 17, 17 million. Okay, yeah, 96 million thereabout. We have 93 million, sorry. We have 93 million registered voters. So, and like times three, Ghanaians, they're like, I think they're like 53 million people. Like the whole country, they're like 33 million people. And about half of that is registered to vote. About 17 million of them are registered to vote. And we have all these. I know people will say it's probably because our population is large. That's why our elections were complicated. But I think it's beyond that. I mean, we spend a lot of money on our electoral process. Have you seen INEC budget for elections? We spend a lot of money on our elections. We deploy um, tools that we think will help. Yeah. And somehow, first of all, we end up having very low voter turnout. And then all the malpractices and everything. So I think um, we need to reconsider how we do elections, but that's by the way. So one of the problems you could face while collating results is election malpractices, and this is usually where political actors basically want to interfere in the election process, the collation process. So you have them inducing collation officers, you have them inducing electoral officials to actually, you know, do what um, they want them to do. And one funny thing that happens in local government elections, following the local government elections that happened this year is that you see one political party winning all the councillor seats and all the local government chairman seats in a free and credible election. That cannot happen anywhere. Yeah. So these are some of the issues you could have with coalition. I'm highlighting malpractice because it's a very serious problem in our electoral process. And also, we could also have situation whereby um, the electoral officials are not well trained to carry out the process. So in some instances, I don't know if you've noticed um, cancellations on result sheets. Sometimes it is not bad faith. Yeah, it is just that these people are not properly trained that okay, you don't impute into the results sheet unless you are absolutely sure that you are done with all the calculations and all of that. Yeah. And some of these things, honestly, technology will fix them. If we're transmitting results electronically, technology will fix it. You just impute and then you move on. So we could look into we need to it's not even look into we need to improve our electoral process. We can't continue like this, especially in Nigeria. We cannot afford to continue the way we've been carrying on our elections. It will not work. At some point, something will have to give because anyone who tells you that Nigerian elections are good the way they are, that person is probably lying to you. And it's so complicated. Yeah. So I think part of my topic, well, I'm also supposed to talk about post elections, what happens in post elections. And I'm just going to talk about two things that happen post elections. One of them is issuance of certificate of returned to those who won elections by INEC. Yeah. So the law basically says that you can check Section 72 of the Electoral Act, which says that INEC is to issue a certificate of return to every winner in an election within a period of 14 days. So if you go into an election and you win the election, one of the things the law requires that INEC does is to issue you a certificate of return that you've been elected for that election. The second thing that happens post-election is election petitions. Basically, election petitions are the only method that the law allows for anyone, not anyone, there are specific people said that can challenge um, an election that happens here. And you can only do it through election petitions. That's another stark difference with Ghana and Nigeria. For Ghana, anybody can go to court and say, I didn't like this election. I think it was not credible. And the court will answer them. But for Nigeria, for Nigeria election, you know, I can understand why the law decided to restrict who goes to court in an election. Imagine, just imagine a situation whereby the law says anybody can go to court to say, okay, this election was bad, and I don't think it was done properly according to the law. Do you know how many cases we'll be having after every election? Millions. It won't be all those 500 cases, 600 cases, 700 cases that we're having. It will be millions because that is what who we are as Nigerians. We lack the civic responsibility to just, let the process take. No, we have to. So I, I think in a way, I understand why our law just restricts filing of election petitions to political parties and candidates that participated in the election, and then excludes every other person. And the law says that you can only file an election, you can only challenge the results of an election when you file an election petition at a tribunal. And basically, these tribunals are set up 30 days before the elections, and then like 7 days before the elections, the registry is open. And then when a person is declared the winner of an election, you have 21 days if you want to challenge the results of the elections. So we have different tribunals. We have the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. All of us know that tribunal because we followed it. I'm hoping that all of us know it, which is at the Court of Appeal. And then you have the Governorship Election Tribunal. And then you have the National and State Assemblies Election Tribunal. And of course, tribunals are expected to deliver their judgments within 180 days of filing of those cases. I think that's about all. So please, if you have questions and all of that, let's hear them. I'll answer as much as I can before I head out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Amina. Can I call you Barrister? Is that okay?
I hate being called barrister. Please just call me Amina. Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry. Amina, so thank you so much for this session. So I will be taking one question from the chat box and one from the hands raised. I will take one from the hands raised first.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Amina Miango. That's a super, maybe because it was relatable to me, right? But that's a very, very super presentation. Thank you so much for the insights. So I have a question. In fact, it's like that petition That's like where my energy is going to. So an election
Mhm.
was an election was conducted, right? And there were so many
Yeah.
errors, so many errors. For instance, the IEC, the Independent Electoral Committee, gave guidelines because
Mission.
the
Thank you.
of a particular what's the name organization that I belong to. So they went ahead
I'm
to
fine.
create
Thank you.
a guideline, and that
Yeah.
guideline, according to that guideline, the electoral system they adopted was a two-third majority. However,
Mhm.
the
They
and
didn't create it, please. The Constitution created it.
okay, well,
Yeah.
so many of the candidates did not meet the requirements as stipulated in the Constitution.
Which of the candidates? State,
Uh,
legislative, executives.
executives, actually.
Okay.
Yes. So they had to, like, the IEC, which is the Independent Electoral Committee, had to like provide
Sorry,
guidelines, like
which country are you from?
I'm from Nigeria. So this is like
Okay,
an
please, can you?
organization.
It's not, oh, hold on.
Yes.
I need to understand.
Okay.
Are you talking about our elections, or you are giving a a scenario?
Well, this is a scenario that is particular to an organization, right? But if you want me to
Okay.
use the context of a country, I can also go ahead to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So yes, let's imagine that all the candidates do not meet
Mm-hmm.
the criterion as stipulated in the
Okay.
Constitution.
All
So
right.
because the people that showed interest to vie for that position,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
electoral commission goes ahead to provide new guidelines or new requirements for
Yeah.
these candidates, to like for nominees to become candidates. So with
Yeah.
that in place, they adopted a particular electoral system, which is
Yeah.
the two-third majority, which is a little bit
Yeah.
different from the absolute majority. Absolute majority, they have to have more than 50% of the total votes.
Yeah.
But in the
50% plus
two-third
one. Yeah.
majority, is like, yes. So like dividing
Mm.
the total votes, by 3, and a candidate
Yeah.
that will emerge winner has to have like two-third
Yeah.
of the total votes. Now, with that, at the end of the day, the outcome was different, which is expected because this arrangement is quite complex. So at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, the IEC goes ahead, for one reason or the other, to announce somebody that did not meet that criterion. It's supposed to be a rerun, which is normal for absolute majority and two-third majority, as the case may be, right? But
Yeah.
instead of announcing a rerun, they just went ahead to declare another candidate the winner of that election, right?
Can I ask
And
you a question?
yes, ma.
Let me ask you a question. First of all, is this an assignment? Because if it's an assignment, I'm not answering
No, it's not an assignment at all.
it.
This is
Okay.
like a real situation currently happening now,
Uh-huh.
right?
Okay.
And some of us, I'm not a candidate in this situation, right? But
Yeah.
we are watching, and every other person is keeping mute, just
What's
playing
your
along.
question?
I'm
What is your
Yes.
sorry,
So
question?
Stephen, please, can you keep your question to under minutes?
okay, sorry. So my question is, now that everybody is keeping quiet, is it still best? What's the number of people that can, push for a petition? And what can the outcome be, as regards being, blacklisted by other members
Okay.
if others don't pick
Okay.
interest?
First of all,
Thank you.
your organizations, whatever organization that is, I don't know whether it's a scenario, I don't know whether this is an actual stuff happening. Yeah. Every election has its rules. And if an election commission decides that, you know, um, I am announcing these results. Yeah. You have remedy to go to court if you want to go to court. But that's for a country, and it is a country's election we're talking about now, presidential, governorship, National Assembly, State House of Assembly. We're not talking about an association's elections. That is different. I underwent an election 2 weeks ago and I was unopposed. And how many people voted? But something people voted and I won. So that's different. I cannot in that situation say that the rules of the constitution, Nigerian constitution, must apply to that election. So if you are talking about an association's election, the rules that your electoral commission sets should be what should apply. And in instances where they do not apply, check the constitution or whatever and see if there are remedies. If there are no remedies, go and try again next time. But if it is a country's election, like Nigeria or Ghana or Kenya or the United States or wherever, the law provides that if you are not happy with the results of any election, you can go to court, approach the court. In Nigeria, like I just said not too long ago, you approach the court with a petition and say, if you are a candidate in that election, or you are a political party that sponsored the candidate, you say, okay, I do not think this person that was declared actually won the election. And this is my reason. He did not score the highest number of votes, or he was not qualified to even contest this election in the first place, or the election fell below expected standards of what the law says. So that's basically it. Anything outside of that, honestly, I cannot help. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'll be reading a question from the chat box. Can the reports of observers be entered as evidence during electoral tribunal or used to challenge the integrity of an election? This question is from Donald Nche Akut.
The thing is, if that report carries weight, of course, why not? Yeah. If the report carries like but the thing is, courts are usually very weary of using such reports as. So if you are submitting that report, you must be able to back it up with real evidence. So if the observers say the election was not fair and fair, we noticed that some people were not allowed to vote. You have to go and bring those people that were not allowed to vote and bring them. And them just saying we were not allowed to vote is not enough. You have to go to that polling unit and get a forensic expert to look at all the ballot papers and ensure that they actually did not vote. Or you look at the register that was used in that polling unit to ensure that they actually did not vote. When you go to vote, your picture is ticked, yeah, on the register. So just the observation report is not enough. It may lay a foundation, but the person saying the election was not credible. These people, when the election was disrupted in this particular place, criminal, and it's even harder when the report is saying a crime happened. Even in election petitions, even though the law says election petitions are sui generis, but where you are alleging that a crime happened, you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt, like every crime. So observation report is actually nothing. It could just serve as a foundation, but you have to prove it in court. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lekki, please ask your question. Okay, it seems Lekki is not ready, so I'll be going to Mohammed.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, Lekki. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, Ma, for this great insight. My question is very simple here. I won't be much. Now, my question is that why is it that we don't have a legal framework which can permit INEC to prepare at least 3 years ahead? Or if there
INEC
is,
prepares
can
3
you
years
enlighten
ahead.
us? 3 years ahead.
I just told you about an electoral cycle at the beginning of the class. What do you think post-election? I actually stated that post-election is when you talk about reforms, you review an election. Never stops planning for elections. As you are ending one election, you are entering the next phase of the electoral cycle and you start your plan again. So the electoral law says that you issue a notice of election a year before. That's just the notice. Doesn't mean that that's when INEC starts planning. Yeah. No, that's not when
Because
INEC starts planning. Because INEC will have started planning procurement, all those things, way before it issues the timetable. The timetable does is to say, okay, we have election in 1 year. These are the activities. But every other thing, like procurement, like it will have been done. Yeah. No. Yeah. Every other thing will have been done, way before then. It never stops. No election commission. What its name? Yeah, stops planning for election. It is an unending cycle of reforms, reviews, preparation. Can tell you now that INEC is already preparing for 2027 election. Everything is doing, including strategy. INEC has strategic plan of actions that goes 5 years, 10 years ahead. And every year there are activities all geared towards the next election. So now activities for plans for 2027 are in place for INEC. The only thing the law says is you cannot campaign because it's not time yet. You cannot do this. You cannot do nomination of candidates. You cannot, political parties cannot start doing primaries, yeah, until when when the timetable is issued. And the timetable will be issued sometime in 2026 or thereabouts, yeah. So these are, INEC never stops planning. It's a continuous process. It doesn't stop. That's why I use the electoral cycle to describe the cycle. It never stops. It continues from one part to the other. Like even Ghana now, as they are finishing, they'll start their review process. They'll start their reforms process until the next election in 2028. So it never stops. Thank you.
Okay,
Mohammed,
thank you
please.
very much. Last hand we have here is Mohammed. Please, Mohammed,
Yeah.
unmute your. Mohammed, you may speak.
Mohammed, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. During the uh, previous pre-electoral processes in Nigeria, I observed that most electoral officers, except for NYSC members, were handpicked by political actors or members of the ruling party. It became evident that individuals who applied for and were trained to serve as electoral officers were often replaced by loyal supporters to carry out the electoral exercises, thereby undermining the credibility of the election. So with this in mind, I would like to ask, what measures can be adopted to improve the efficiency and reliability of election result collation, particularly in addressing challenges related to personnel selection and the adaptation of the new technology, that is the bypass. in case of Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, I think one of the problems with Nigerian elections is how we tend to want to, before I answer your question, yeah, we tend to want to feel like only people who do not have political affiliations or people who do not have interest in the elections do election work. And let me explain. I understand the place of partisanship and how detrimental it could be, but I don't think partisanship is the problem. I think when you put partisanship above your job, above the interest of other voters, that's when we have a problem. Now, let me explain further. This morning, while I was going around here, I noticed that some election officials will leave where they are working, go to where they are expected to vote. They'll cast their vote and then go back to their work. You know what will happen if that happens in Nigeria? So it's not that, there's nothing wrong with that. They're citizens. Yeah. They will have a preferable candidate. Everybody does. Everybody should be allowed to vote or participate in some kind of way. But when it is time to do election work, the person does election work. Now back to your question. So that a person um, is a member of a political party shouldn't be a disqualifying factor per se. Yeah. It is what the person does when the person is given that role to play that is the problem. I do not know which state you're talking about, but generally, INEC uses coppers for elections, especially as presiding officers. And the presiding officer is like the person with the power at the polling unit. And the reason why INEC uses coppers is because coppers generally do not have a familial, relationship wherever it is that they are serving. They are mostly strangers to those places. So their father cannot come and say, okay, if you don't allow my party vote, I'll disown you. Or their girlfriend cannot come and say, my uncle is contesting, just allow me, just give me like 50 ballot papers. Yeah. So that's why INEC, and it is because of the kind of environment that INEC is operating from. And I gave you that first example of how even election officials are going to vote. So you understand that in other cases, it's not a problem. I met somebody some months ago when I went for a conference. He was a member of the Democratic Party, but he was an equivalent of our collation officer for the election, for the American election. I met him in October. Okay, so October, end of October. And American election was November. So we were talking about the election. I said, that he's basically doing collation and all that. He was a Democrat. But you know what? To do a job as a collation officer. So that is what is expected of him. Until we get to that part where our country is more important than our politics. Yeah, we'll keep having these suspicions, these conversations, and okay, just because I have a candidate or just because I'm a political party member, no, I shouldn't be involved in the process of making our elections better. And I don't know, we need to start moving away from all those suspicions. We need to start getting the process. We need to work on the process. Yeah, improve our process so that it can stand alone on its own. Build strong institutions that can work. Because it is because people have strong institutions that anybody can, a member of a Democratic Party can be collation officer. Nobody is afraid because they know that nothing they happen. And that's where we need to start moving. And the thought is that, honestly, Nigeria is in a league of its own. Recently, I completed a report on, let me see if I can share. I completed a report on the Ghana elections. And I'm going to share two reports with you. Take your time and read the two and see the differences. We are all Nigerians, and there are things we that scare us. A normal Nigerian does not trust the police. Yeah. But the funniest thing, we asked Ghanaians about their trust in police. Like, do you trust the police to protect you on election day? Do you trust the police? Over 70% of them said yes. That cannot happen in Nigeria. And then another one, do you trust that the process? I've shared the link to the report. That's the one for Ghana. I'm going to share the one for Nigeria. Go through this, go through these two reports, and you see how totally different they are. And we are taking it as a joke. Yeah, these things are, normal way that Nigeria is and all that. But we need to start deliberately building our country into what we want it to be. Because honestly, if we can't trust the electoral process will work or that it works, yeah, in the absence of um 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 concrete evidence, if we just listen to bans and lies from people who maybe because they've lost election, or people that don't even understand what the electoral process is. And that's why classes like um, um, this course, the politeracy course, that's why it's important. Because you need to know, if you don't understand the issues, you need to be an informed citizen. You need to understand how the process works. It's only when you understand, okay, oh, okay, INEC has the power to make regulations. Oh, that's fine. Okay, I understand now. Or, oh, okay, this is how collation works. Yeah. It is only when you understand these things that you can say, okay, now I understand the process. And that is how you are able to engage the process. So I get where you're coming from, but have I have I shared where's the link? I'm trying to share the second. So it is only when we understand the process that we can actively engage process. Thank you very much. Any other question?
Okay, we have
so
one more.
okay.
We have one
Okay, so
more
I've
question.
shared the second link for you. Okay.
Okay.
Go
Kainde, you
on.
can
All right. Thanks so much. Good evening, man. Good. Thanks for the class and thanks for the lecture. So I just want to focus my questions on the collation process. I
Okay.
know I know you gave us the process and how the process of collation really work. I've done that. I was part of collation process in Kwara, and I follow it through to the local government collation where I slept throughout the night for that process. So I think for the election, the collation process, the best part of it, I think, is from the ward, from the where the election is being done. That is where I think the collation is being accurate. Get accurate to the part of ward, and then from the local government, even from ward, the distortion started to come up. So my question will be, how can the citizen, how can the electorate can support HINEC to make collation process better? Because to me, I think the leg in this election process that is really faulty is the collation process. I know if the collation process is being solved, because in the local government collation center, that's where most of alteration has been done, and I think if the collation process being done well, the election process going to court will be reduced. So how can you really see us supporting, or as citizen can really make collation process work? Because even agents, party
Okay,
agents.
thank you very much. Let me answer your question. Let's not take too. I understand what you're trying to ask. Um, Follow the process because for me, I don't know if manual collation will work. We can't continue to do our collation manually. We need to infuse some certain level of, of technology so that from polling unit, you are transmitting straight to the final level of collation. All this carrying from, one level to the other does not work. Yeah, it can't work. We can't still keep carrying. I mean, we're a country, we have money. Okay, yeah, well, we know how to find money for elections. We know how to spend on our elections. And if you know how to spend on your election, make it easier. So, in the absence of technology, we have to become better citizens. That it's not enough to just vote and then you know you vote at but, okay, first of all, I don't know what you mean like election results are good at the polling units. Yeah, result that was gotten uh, via vote buying, I don't know how you say that result was good. You used 5,000 naira to sell your votes. How does that make that a good result? Okay, let's assume it is a good result. It is because you sold your votes that you do not want to, you are not bothered about what happens to the election results as it goes further because you've sold your votes. So we need to become better citizens. Yeah. We talk about how bad politicians are, how terrible INEC, how crazy the police. We blame everybody. But when it comes to people that actually sell their votes and those that refuse to participate in the process, we're like, it's because election is so complicated. And, they are hungry, yeah, and all. Yeah, there's poverty in Nigeria. But poverty cannot justify you selling your votes for one bag of salt, or for Indomie, or for 2K, or for 5K. It can't. But the process is bad doesn't justify you refusing to come out to vote. So, honestly, if we want to improve collation, it's on us. INEC will do its part. People will finish voting, and then you need to follow up the results. You need to understand that the process needs to be credible. And for it to be credible, we have to follow through onto the last part. You just vote, collect your 5K, and you go to your house. Politician has paid you now. So you pray for the next level too and change the result. But when you stand and say, okay, we are voting and we are voting this process, you follow up the result and nobody would dare want to attempt to change. So that's the only way citizens, as a citizen, that's one of the ways you follow through. You want to fix the process, you have to keep following through. That's one way citizens can do because anything outside of that, you cannot beat anybody. It's a friend. You cannot say um, well, you will not participate. That is foolishness. Apologies to for using that word. But yes, that is foolishness. So we have to keep participating at every level of the election. When we finish voting, follow it to the next. Don't trust party agents to do it for you. I'm sorry, but party agent, you've never seen where party agent is will collect money from party BBC and then disappear. So party agents will not do it for you. I'm sorry. And if you want to see a better kind of party agent, then you will have to volunteer for such jobs. Yeah, going forward, you have to volunteer. So basically, citizens have to participate at every level of elections until results are announced. If not, thank you. Hmm. Any other question? I need to get back to work, please. Any other question? Any other
Yeah, we have
question?
a question from Lucky Mo, so I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Thank you very much, Mark, for your presentation. I'm really excited that we're talking about these things. I got tested in last general election, so have very serious issues. We're trying to follow our results. So by the time we go to the federal constituency commission center,
Sorry, I
became
can't
an
hear you
issue.
very well. There's an interruption.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to be a little fast because of the time, right? So I said,
Okay.
I appreciate it for your presentation. It was really nice. Now, we are talking about collation of results. So the issue I had,
Yeah.
my experience the last time, during the last election, was that
Yeah.
the 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 incumbent, or let me say the ruling party, had this took over the collation center with so much security that even candidates couldn't have access to the center and stuff. So these are stuff that we need to talk about. So it became an issue for us. We couldn't follow our results through. So that's one. Secondly, the issue of manual result collation. I think in a situation like Nigeria, we shouldn't completely write it off. Just my opinion, though. Because if you see in the last election, although
A situation whereby, sorry, I can't. Are you using a headpiece?
yes, I'm using a headpiece.
Okay, you said in a situation whereby.
Okay, so I'm saying I'm talking about the manual collation now. Can you hear me, please? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Please type your question. Type your question in the box so I can see it.
Okay. Okay, no
Please
problem.
type your question, Lucky. Your voice is breaking. We have one more question for the day. More, please ask your question. This is our last question for the day. Okay. I think Samuel might be having network issues, so let me read out comments from the box while we wait for Samuel. Abdul Wasi says, you are right, Ma. Technology needs to be deployed for elections, but then manipulations can come in. Some communities where there is no network can be an issue, must also be taken into consideration.
Sorry, I'm so sorry, guys. Yeah. What's the question? Sorry. Hello?
I was reading a comment from the chat box since
You're
we
right, ma.
don't have any
Technology
other
needs to be
questions.
deployed for
You're
elections.
right, Ma. Technology needs to be deployed for elections, but then manipulations can come in. Some communities where there is no network can be an issue, must also be taken into consideration.
Um, is there any community in Nigeria that does not have any form of internet? Like maybe in 31 hour distance between, like, around the vicinity. I mean, even Borno that has Boko Haram, I'm sure if you travel for 1 hour or 30 minutes, you're going to see network. So, and then we act like all the countries, that actually do transmission of the sick, they don't used to have a boost and communities where internet is not very strong. Nigeria, we like to think that Nigeria is special. Um, Nigeria is not special. Yeah, there's nothing that says that if network isn't good, you can't travel a bit for 30 minutes to transmit. And there's nothing that says Skylink that we cannot invest in technology that will you can transmit the results with little internet connection. Nothing. These are just excuses, honestly. The, Nigeria is not the only country that does elections, and you can transmit results. You can travel for 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever. But the most important thing is that you transmit the results electronically. And there are no perfect elections here. You just reduce the level of manipulation. Even the American election is not perfect. No election is perfect. But to be able to say an election was free and fair, you're saying that you've completely reduced the level of um, this manipulation to such a minimal level that you can say, okay, these results represent the general choice of the people. And that is it. And honestly, like I said earlier, Nigeria is not special. Yeah. So every excuse you want to try at, you want to throw at us not doing electronic voting, us not doing electronic transmission, we can get around it with enough planning and organization. Michael, you have 10 seconds to ask your question, and that will be the last question I'll be taking. 10 seconds. Michael, 10 seconds.
Yeah, I can speak now. Good evening. Thank you so much
Good
for
evening.
your time.
10
Please,
seconds,
my
5 more
question,
seconds.
in a case, I mean, in an ideal situation, what you said about the internet connectivity is good. I mean, in some
What's the
places in the north,
question?
in some places in the north, where you have insecurity, stroke, network connectivity issues,
Oga,
what,
I
what,
think I've
what,
answered that question. I've answered the question. I said there's nothing that planning and organization cannot fix. If you
in
have
an
any
ideal
other question
situation,
outside, yes,
in
in
an
an
ideal
ideal
situation,
situation. Guy, I worked with INEC for 10 years too. So I'm sure maybe you're an INEC staff or whatever. Yes, you can plan around.
okay, so
Hello? Okay. Wumi, I hand over back to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate your time, for taking your time with us. Thank you for such an enlightening section. I don't know if we have any announcement from the college. Miss Lisa, do you have any announcement for us? Please let us know.
Okay, thank you, Chiamaka. Well done. Thank you so much. I mean, now it's been very, very interactive and interesting session. Thank you so much for squeezing out time, even with your tight schedule and all that, to still honor our invitation. Thank you so, so much. It's so good to have you every single time. I'll just allow the students on mute and tell you thank you before we end the class.
Thank you,
Thank
ma.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the wonderful class.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very
ma.
much.
Thank you,
So
ma.
much.
Thank you,
Thank you so much.
Chairman of the Electoral College. Thank you,
Thanks a
thank you,
lot.
thank you, thank you.
Thanks.
Nice of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. In Hausa means na
And
gode.
we have been loaded with appreciation.
Cardinal, we do.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. I think we can release you now to go back to the field and to what you have to handle. Thank you so much. All right, thank you everyone. The facilitator
Thank you
for
so much.
all right, ma'am. The facilitator for tomorrow will be unavailable, so tomorrow will be free. But I'll advise you to start preparing for your elections next week. Yeah, your campaigns will start on Tuesday to Wednesday. Your debates will be on Thursday, and the elections will be on Friday. So just use the free time to start preparing towards it. There'll still be a formal posting of the assignment, maybe by tomorrow or on Monday. So well done, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you, Chiamaka.